Now, would you like to say your names so we know each other?
Tony,
Shannon,
Dave,
Tony,
Justin,
Mary,
Alison.
Terry.
And Bob. And Kat. I'm just a backup in case he forgets the word. And I'm his best friend, so he wants me to be here.
Well, the usual old spiel. We say it over and over and over again. Realise what is actually being said. We don't teach you anything here, and we don't tell you anything. Understand that right from the start. What we do is point toward and ask you to look to where we're pointing to see for yourself. That's all that's going to happen. A self-recognition that you're not that self that you believe yourself to be, the personal self. You are the one self that's patterning, shaping, forming and expressing as everything. And it's nothing new we point to, not new idea. You'll see it's the base of all the ancient traditions. All the different religions are formed around that. Even the religions get corrupted with adding things to it, putting all different concepts and beliefs into it. Hinduism, they call it Advaita. Advaita translated meaning non-duality. And they try to describe non-duality by saying it's one without a second. They put that one without a second because even the idea of one implies there could be other than one. Cancel out that idea. They're pointing out directly that there is only that one. In Buddhism, they'll tell you the same thing using different concepts. They'll say it's non-conceptual, ever fresh, non-conceptual meaning without any words, labels or concepts. Non-conceptual, ever fresh presence awareness. Ever fresh meaning nothing is static, nothing has been around forever, it's constantly transient, it's constantly changing. Ever fresh presence awareness. They talk about that awareness of presence, the being awareness. Anyone who's not present right now? And are you anyone who is unaware right now? No, I am aware. So you must be, it is that presence that is aware, not you as the person or any entity. You are that non-conceptual, ever-fresh presence awareness. And adds on to that just this, nothing else. Just this, nothing else. There is nothing other than that. Christianity and other religions talking about it, and Christianity they call it, speaking about trying to describe what they call God. They'll say it's omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience. Omnipresence means total presence, not your presence, my presence, or a higher presence. Well, omnipotence means total power, not a higher power or a God power or a thought power or a self power or any other power, but it's total power. And omniscience means a total intelligence. Intelligence is cognising or knowing, not your intellects that you know this or know that, but have a look at the universe around you. See how it's patterning, shaping and forming. You realise there is an innate intelligence suffusing every particle. Those bodies you call you. That wasn't that life, isn't that intelligence? And what would you be? Who could you be? How could you be? So they're all pointing to that oneness, like that. The non-duality. Going back to Hinduism, they call it Satchitananda, Nama, Rupa, are the 5 factors. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, Ananda is bliss or loving to be, and the other 2 factors, the Nama, Rupa, name and form, they'll say are Maya, illusion. So all the names, labels and forms we take ourselves to be are Maya or illusion. They tell you that in Buddhism too, when they say this manifestation is a phenomenal manifestation. Look up your dictionary, look up the definition of phenomena. The definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So all this manifestation, including you, me, and everything else, is appearance only. And they'll say it's transient, not static, but it's transient, it's ever-changing. When you look at this, look at that, you'll see that body you walked into this room with is not the same body that's there now. It's not the same body as I'm saying is now. It's constantly transient, it's changing. There are cells dying in it right now, not one or two, but hundreds of thousands of them, and being replaced. And it's not the same body you had last week or last year or 5 or 10 years ago. But it's the same essence that's suffusing it and expressing through it. But you take yourself to be that pattern, shape and form, and you'll say, I can go back for years and years and years in memory. But what's going back? Is it the body, mind, or the concept you got about yourself? Or just a thought you've got? And we believe ourselves to be this person, this individual, this separate entity, this person. Where does the word person come from? Persona, the mask. Pointing out we've got this conceptual image, a mask of concepts. And all these concepts are past, dead. They're dead, they're gone. So we've got this conceptual image about ourselves and we're constantly relating to that image, dead image. And Shakespeare tells you that. He says there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And the Sargadatta will tell you the same thing. Nothing can trouble you. Nothing at all can trouble you except your own imagination. Break that down to imagine, image in. That's what imagine is. We are imaging in constantly. Seeing things, hearing, tasting, touching, feeling, and putting images, concepts, ideas of what we believe them to be. What we picked up along the way and taken, this is so-and-so, this is fear, this is anger, this is self-pity, this is a good thought, this is a bad thought. Now dead. And that sensation comes up and we label it with the past and take it to be real and beat ourselves up with the word. In the Bible it tells you, in the beginning was the Word. And the Word was with God. And the Word was God. All things were made by Him, by the Word. There was nothing made that was made without the Word. And have a look at that. Your idea of the world and everything is concepts made up by the Word. And that's all that Word is. Well, that's all God is Word. And you can see that. How many different labels have we put on God? Hinduism will have a different, thousands of different names. Buddhism will have a different name or label. Christianity has a different label. The Muslims will tell you, the Jewish will tell you, Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. There is nothing other. The Muslims will tell you, there is no God but God. Allah is His name. Hindus tell you it's Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, and all these different concepts. Well, what they're talking about when they say Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, they're talking about the stillness, the silence, the basic screen on which everything appears. You can't say much about that basic screen, it's no thing, so we put different labels on different words. But the problem is, without questioning it, without looking into it and investigating, we've taken a word to be the real. And realise that every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been learnt. You weren't born with any word. And have a look at the words you're using. Is the word the real? Take the word, water. Can you drink the word? Can you swim in the word? Will you drown in the word? Can you wash yourself in the word? You can't. Putting out the word's not the real. The word fire. Can you cook with the word? Can you heat yourself with the word? Can you burn yourself with the word? So, when you go along and look at all the words that like that, and you take this label, I, and you see the concept we've got about this word, I'm Bob, I'm Australian, I'm a good fellow, I'm not so good, I'm unhappy, I'm feeble. You've got a conceptual image about yourself, which we call the reference point, the self-centre, or the ego. That's all the ego is, a word. Words we've blown up. And I point out the word is not the real. And have a look at that. You weren't born with any words. You didn't have any words till you were about 2.5. That's when I ask you, when were you born? When did you begin? You'll say, I began at birth, but nobody can remember your birth. You don't remember anything. Have a look and see. If you can tell me what you can remember before you learnt any words, about 2.5 or somewhere around that age. You can't. So every word you've ever learnt has been learnt, we picked up along the way, and you're still probably learning new words to this day. I am, but I'm forgetting a lot of the old ones. The vocabulary is increasing, the different words I learn. And we put the meaning into these words, the label into the words, and put the meaning, and take the meaning to be real. But when you look at the word, we call it mind. Are you this body, mind? Are you this person you think you are? You say, I am this body, I'm mind, but are you? Well, if you think you are the body, what's the body made up of? And you know you're not the body because innately you say my body. You say my mind. Don't you say my house, my car, my coat. You know you're not the house, the car or the coat. Maybe you're not the mind. Maybe you're not the body. Have you ever investigated and had a look? Till you do, you'll still believe those things. When you investigate, there's the belief. You'll see the belief, not the real, not the actual. It loses its hold on you. And look at your dictionary, look up the word belief and see what all these beliefs you think to be real are. And you realise it's an unquestioned acceptance of something in the absence of reason. Acceptance of an alleged fact without positive knowledge or proof. That's why we need to investigate. These things need to be investigated, looked at, seeing if they'll stand up. And the false cannot stand up to investigation. If you've got something false you're believing in, when you really look into it, it'll fall apart. Like you believe the sea's blue. Well, you might have believed the sea's blue, but you know damn well the water's not blue. Never was, never will, though it'll still appear to be so. Where the sea and the sky meet, the horizon, it looks like the edge of the earth. You realise the earth, and people told years ago, don't go out there. You'll fall off the edge of the earth. Who would believe it today? Nobody. Though it still appears the same. A water in a mirage, it appears to be water in a mirage. When you drive up, it disappears. When was there ever water there? There never was, never will be. But it appears to be so. All these appearances were taken to be real. They need to be questions. The worst one is this belief in that I am this body, mind entity. Well, are you the body? When you say my body, you know you're not the body. What's the body made up of? Your real body's made up of elements. It's made up of earth, air, fire, water, space, just like the elements around you. Separate yourself from the air if you think you're separate from those elements as a separate body. Stop breathing. See how you could last without that element. Take the water out of your body. Your body's 80% water. See how long you'd last without that. Separate yourself from that. Take the fire, the body temperature. If you didn't have that body temperature, you'd soon get hypothermia and die. Get off the earth if you can. Separate yourself from the earth. Get out of space. Separate yourself from the space. You can't. So when you investigate, you see you're not separate from any of those things. They're all pattern, shapes and forms that are appearing in those things. So how can you say I'm the body? Look at this mind. And you'll say my mind. Innately again, you're knowing you're not the mind, like you're my car, my house, my car. You don't say I mind. Say my mind. What's this mind? Show me your mind if you think there's such a thing as mind. And when you look, you can't grasp anything conceptual or solid. You'll say this is mind, apart from a thought. So you see that mind is the thought. And if you believe you are the mind, you'd be a thought. Which thought are you? Are this I thought? And what thought is there when you go to sleep at night? There's no thought. But you haven't finished. It's not the end of you. If you were the thought of body, it'd be the end of you when you stop thinking. But it's not. So you can't be this mind, this thought-up mind, this conceptual mind. Because the image you've got about yourself is based on concepts. I'm Bob, the Australian, I'm a good fellow, I'm not so good, I'm fearful, I had a bad childhood. Aren't they all concepts? And they're dead concepts at that. Because they're based on past events, experience and conditioning. So can the dead keep up with life? Life is ever fresh and ever new and ever changing, it can't. So you see where all your psychological suffering comes from. All your fears, all your anxieties, all your stresses come from this constant relationship. Relationship is duality. Relative to me and the other. And there is absolutely no duality in non-duality, as they point out basically at the start. When did you begin? You'll say, I was born, but can you remember your birth? And you look at it, no, you can't remember your birth. You don't remember anything till you're about 2.5 years of age, when you'll start to reason. Before that capacity of reasoning developed, you didn't have any idea you were born, yet you were alive and living. How did you form? And if you're thinking of this body mind, well, take your father and your mother. Your father, that animating life essence, the same animating life essence that you are right now, or if he's dead, he was, you'd let life essence at one. In that life, through the food, the essence of the food he ate, and the prana, the air he breathed, all that functioning going on enabled a little sperm to form in that pattern. You can't see it with your naked eye, a little microscopic particle. And the same with your mother. Animating life essence of pattern shaped and formed your mother, enabled in that form through that essence, the food that you're eating and the prana and the breath and the food you eat, enabled in that essence a little microscopic particle called an egg or an ovum to form. And that ovum was suffused with intelligence. It wasn't a dead thing. It was suffused with intelligence. It knew what to do. It attached itself to the wall of the uterus. The body didn't grab it and attach it there. The body formed, it was floating around and it attached itself, went into the uterus and formed, attached itself there. And the sperm wasn't another dead image. It knew what to do. It swam to the ovum. It knew where to swim to and to penetrate the ovum. And when those two came together, what happened? The cell doubled and doubled again, and the genes of those two patterns, father and mother, it formed a little embryo, a little fetus. What were you doing about it then? Did you say, well, I've got to grow an arm or a leg or a hand? You couldn't say anything because you didn't have a brain even then to form, to tell you what to do. But the innate intelligence knew what to do, to form the embryo and the fetus. And after 9 months, you came into existence, out into the world. And what did you do then? Didn't you say, now I'm Buddha, I'm going to do this, that, and that? You didn't have any thoughts, ideas or words, you didn't. But you knew what to do. You knew to breathe, the heartbeat and all the rest of it. And to fasten onto the nipple and suckle. And it grew you from then on. And it's still growing you today and living here. But at 2.5 years, the capacity of reasoning develops and we learnt words. And I pointed out before, every word you've ever spoken or ever likely to speak has been picked up along the way. And as I also pointed out, the word is not the thing. But we've taken it to be real. We learnt words like I and me. With this capacity of reasoning, which is a very useful capacity human forms have, which is more developed than what it is in other animals, birds, insects, but they have different capacities that form better than our capacity of reasoning is. A bird has the capacity of flying, the capacity of eyesight is much better than yours or mine. The capacity of flying, like we have the capacity of reasoning. And through the capacity of reasoning, which is a very useful capacity, we've learned to build ourselves eyeglasses, binoculars or telescopes if our eyes are failing, planes, helicopters, balloons and kites enable us to fly. A dog has a sense of smell. Capacity of smelling is much more developed than what ours is. Chameleons and other animals change colour. So the capacity of reasoning is different in the different patterns. And this capacity of reasoning, we've learnt words. Put meanings into the words, take them on. And as I pointed out, the word is not the thing, it's not the real, it's not the actual. Like animals and birds have sounds. All our words are sounds which we put meaning into. And in the sounds of the bird, without putting a label of a word on it, they have meaning. One sound will be a sound of danger or fear, another one will be calling out to a mate, another one will be there's food here or something like that. But you'll see the words and sounds are not words. We have words which we put meaning in and utilise the words, which are very useful, but they're self-destructive. As you look at this mind and see how these words function, how does your mind function? You'll see it's always functioning in the pairs of opposites. It's a vibration. That's all thought is a movement of energy, a vibration. And you'll say, what's your mind? As Shakespeare tells you, nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. See the way you're thinking. You're always thinking in the pairs of opposites. You're either in the past, which is memory, or the future, which is anticipation and imagination. It's either good or bad, it's pleasant or painful, happy, sad, loving, hating, positive and negative. Watch your mind and see the way it functions. See if it functions any other way than in those pairs of opposites. And the boundaries we're putting upon it are these words we've learned. If it's not good or not bad, where can it lodge? If it's not yesterday or it's not tomorrow, where is it? Is it today? But today is constantly changing. If it's not unhappy or sad or happy, where is it? It's functioning, coming and going, vibrating, but if we're not putting the labels, the concepts on it, and tying it down to either one or the other because we discriminate it and take the word to be real, it's free to flow. Now look in nature. Nature is functioning in the pairs of opposites, day, night, winter, summer, fine, seasonal, whatever. But nature's not only putting labels or concepts or boundaries on it. Goes out there in a cloud in the sky, cloud can seemingly cover the sun. You go outside and day, would you say the sun's not in the sky? No, because you've investigated and the sun, the sun never leaves the sky. The cloud has seemingly obscured it. When you ask what formed the cloud, you realise the sun itself forms a cloud. The sun doesn't know anything about the cloud. But through its radiance, through the shininess of the sun, it evaporates water. And that evaporation water, it condenses and forms a cloud which seemingly obscures the sun. That's what we're doing in a similar fashion. Energy is forming words which are coming up as concepts which we obscure our true nature. The presence, the awareness, the silence and the beauty, the life and the joy that's there are obscured by words. Hate, fear, anxiousness, depression, anxiety, stress, guilt, shame, remorse, envy. And the word is not the thing. But when we believe it to be real, good to see you. You made it. So that's what we need to look at. Question. See for yourself. Nobody's ever going to do it for you. Because all these patterns, shapes and forms that we are constantly transient, constantly changing. And we are appearance only, because the essence of each and every one of you is that Satchitananda, the existence, the consciousness, the bliss, the being, knowing and loving to be. It's patterning, shaping and forming into these concepts, into these words. So that's why I can't teach you anything, I can't tell you anything. Can I tell a conceptual image? You've got a mirror behind you, have a look in that mirror. And what are you saying? You'll say, I see reflections in it, or images in the mirror. A reflection is nothing but an image in the mirror. Now you can't say they're not there, but you go up and try and grab a reflection out of the mirror. All you'll do is grab the mirror. You won't grab any reflection. That's why I can't tell you anything to teach you things. Trying to teach a reflection, you are all reflections in this presence of you. That's the analogy of the mirror is not a really true one, because the mirror needs something outside itself to reflect in. So this intelligence energy, this screen in which you're appearing on, there's nothing outside of it. Everything appears seemingly so in it, but it's not corrupting or contaminating. Like the images in the mirror, don't corrupt or contaminate the mirror. There are all these pattern shapes and forms in this manifestation. The tsunamis, the volcanic eruptions, the blowing up of stars and things like that have never corrupted the sense of presence, the intelligence in it, the stainless, the silence, the stillness in which it all appears. So recognise that and learn to relax into that essence that you are. Concepts can be used. This room was an idea in somebody's mind once. The art on the wall was an idea in somebody's mind. In that way, and they're being used, they're being utilised, the mirror itself and the room and the house were an idea in somebody's mind. People say, I did that, I thought that. But could they have drawn a line, turned a screw, lifted a finger, done anything at all without that life essence in the body, the screen? Could that body move? Could it eat food? Could it do anything or take a breath without that? So you see, you haven't separated yourself from that life essence. You're a pattern, shape and form and appearing in it and being utilised. But we've taken ourselves to be the ones can utilise and do something about it. And that's the cause of all your fear, your anxiety, your depression, your guilt, the cause of your suicides and your fights and your wars. The whole thing is caused by that belief there is something separate there that's got to protect itself and look after itself. And never look at that life. Pattern shapes and forms appear and they disappear, and that is true. They will continue to do so. Because life lives on life. Out of life, more life is continually expressing. And that's what Christ told you. I am the life, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. He wasn't talking about himself, which people interpreted. He was talking about that sense of presence that expresses through the mind as the thought I am, that is expressing through that mind. If you try and describe yourself, you'll say I am. That is the way, the truth and the life, that sense of presence. And realise that the sense of presence is not time. And when you investigate, you'll see there's no such thing as time. Ask yourself this, is there a past if I don't think about it? Don't think about it, pause the thought. What can you say? You can't say there's a past. Can you say there's a future if you don't think? You can't. Can you say there's a now? Well, say there's now. When does now begin? You'll say it's beginning right now. When is it ending? You'll say it's already ending as you're saying it. It's got no static point to it or no stages to it at all. It's transient, it's constantly changing. And look at that time again. You'll say, I was in the past. I'll say, all right, if you think you're in the past, go back and live yesterday. Go back and live a moment ago. See if you can live a moment ago, or yesterday, or last week. You can't. You can recall it. The only actuality you're giving the past is when you're recalling it right now. Because nobody in this room can tell me what you're thinking about a moment ago now. Unless you recall it, it's already gone. The same with the future. You can anticipate and imagine the future, but you can't live a moment in the future. And when you're anticipating and imagining the future, it'll be right now. So there'll be a road scholar to work out to never move away from this presence. So to put the concept now on, people say, I've got to stay in the now. I'll say, try and get out of it. Try and get away from what now represents, this presence. So when they call it in Hinduism's existence, consciousness, bliss, being, awareness and knowing is another name for it. Try and separate from that awareness. Anyone who is not being right now, no, or conscious right now, or existing right now, put different labels on it, but it's the same thing. Anyone who is not existing right now, you'll say, no, I'm existing right now. Anyone who's not aware right now, not conscious right now, anyone who is unaware, no, you'll say, I'm not unaware. If you're not unaware, well, you must be aware. So all the time you're listening to this right now, you haven't been unaware, have you? But you must be aware. So don't try and grasp with the concept, I am this awareness. That's what we do. I am this consciousness, or I am this awareness. We go looking for consciousness or awareness, and we wonder why we can't grasp it or can't get it. But realise it's always there. And you are that. And that is the Mahavakya. I am that. In your language you know it. I am that. Because that is all there is. That is the carpet. That is the chair. That is the iPhone. That is Tony. That's the tree outside. That's the space. That's the flower. Everything is that. And what's discriminated, what's changed it? The Word. And in the beginning was the Word. And there was no beginning for you or me or anything else until the Word came into being. And all this beingness now is words, concepts, ideas. But that basic screen, the silence and the stillness, in which the words, the concepts and everything else appear, has never ever changed. And that is what you are. So you don't have to do away with the word or the belief or the pattern that you are, but know the truth about it, that pattern. And let it express which it does. The ideas, the concepts and the images come up can be very useful. All this, the room and everything else that was invented by this human conceptualising have been very useful. But all the self-destruction, the anxieties, the fears, the mental concepts and ideas, disturbances we have, the hate, the wars and everything like that have been caused by the belief that we're separate from it. We call ourselves human beings. We call God a supreme being, if you use that term. Take the label supreme off. Take the label human off. Try and separate the beingness in this room without a label. That's being a chair, that's being a carpet, that's being you, that's being me. You'll say there's nothing but beingness here. So if that word beingness is a word for the so-called godliness, you are that godliness already. I don't like to use the term because if I use that term, every different religion has got a different concept of God and what they think God is and believe God to be, and we'll fight over that term, a word. Even the word omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience is a word. People put different concepts on it. But you are that word. How does it come about? When we learnt this reasoning, we learn words. Parents fussing around us, using words. You're little Johnny, you're a good little boy. It's do this, do that. And we start to learn words like I, me, and this, that, and the other. I am little Johnny, and I'm a good boy. Or they tell me I'm a bad boy, or I'm not this. I'm fearful, I'm anxious, I'm unhappy. All words we've learned. And all labelled to me onto this idea of I. Because you can't do much with I or me without putting other concepts on it. So now we've got this conceptual me. I'm Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, not so good, who had a bad childhood. And it's all based on past events and experiences, a dead image. And that's what we call the reference point, the self-centre and the ego. We call it a reference point because we relate everything to it, refer to it. It's a self-centre, it's a self-image we've got about ourselves. And that's what we call the ego, this conceptual image. And they tell you in the scripture and everything else that ego is the problem. And they say you've got to sublimate this ego, you've got to push it under the carpet, you've got to kill it. Do you think the ego is going to kill itself? Do you think it can? It can't. So that's why it all stays there. You do all these practices and efforts trying to get rid of it, stamp on it, as they say, try and push it out. It doesn't go away. It doesn't die until it's recognised and seen, looked into and seen. There is nothing there. Nothing there at all that has any substance or any independent nature or has any static form. So we've got this conceptual image about, we relate everything to this image, like something comes up and we say, I like it. How would you know? Well, because I've experienced before. I've had this experience before, and this is good. And we like the things we're good with. We don't want the things that are bad. We like to hang on to the things and keep them there. Not realising that they are all transient. No matter how much you love them, now how much you want to keep them there, they're going to change, and isn't that so? Haven't you lost someone in your love, and someone has died, someone has left you, somebody's moved away, and you've changed yourself? You can't actually go with something now that you believed in a little while ago. Realising it's constantly transient, it's constantly changing. But we don't want these things to go because we think this ego is real and can do something about it. We don't want it to go. To what we do, we hang to it. We hang on to it, cling to it. And with that comes the fear, the anxiety, the depression, the guilt, trying to keep it there. Because what we do to keep it there, we resist it from going. Trying to keep it there, we wanted us to keep it there, we wanted to stay, and we resist it. But realise any resistance you are in conflict. Resistance is conflict. You're at war with it, you're in conflict with it. And conflict is to seize. Another word for your fear, anxiety, stress, guilt, and resentment is uneasiness or dis-ease. So resistance, conflict and dis-ease is going on in us all the time. Something you like comes up. And this one, something you don't like comes up. What do we do with this one? We don't want to cling to this one. We want to get rid of it. Trying to get rid of it, what do? We resist it. Try to push it away, kill it. Hey there. Hey there. Good to see you. Thanks for that. Yeah. So have a look at your life. Isn't that what's continually coming up? Constant conflict, resistance, uneasiness, fear. Always not sure what's going to happen next. This will go on forever until maybe you look at it, maybe you see through something. So we do all these practices, meditations, practices, and looking at this and looking at that, trying to become something. Not realising that becoming is not being. If you start recognising and pause the thought for a while and see what's there without a thought and drop into it, that's what they call an undistracted non-meditation. You're not distracted by meditating. When there's a meditator meditating on something, there's somebody trying to get something, and that's what stops it from happening. But leave it happen by itself. An undistracted non-meditation. And instead of trying to get peace of mind, realise you'll never ever get peace of mind. That's what we're doing for. We want this peace. What the ancients call the peace that passeth all understanding. And why would they call it that? The peace that passeth all understanding. Because they're realising and recognising it can't be understood or grasped by the mind. It's the peace that's when the mind is not. And the peace when the mind is not is when the thought is not there, when you're not continually conceptualising and imagining and postulating and thinking and imagining stuff. What happens when you go to sleep at night before you start to dream? What can you say about it? Nothing. And if it carried on all night and you wake up in the morning, you'll say, I had a beautiful, peaceful sleep last night. How would you know? what was registering or recognising. But usually a lot of times we start to dream. And in that dream we're creating all sorts of situations. You can be in a house, you can be in the mountains, you can be in the hills, you can be in a car, you can be anywhere at all. Doing all sorts of activities, so with somebody else, talking, with doing all sorts of activities, but your body hasn't moved off the bed and there's no words come out of your mouth. But it seems to be carrying on quite real and actual in that dream. When you wake up, what happens to the dream? It disappears. And you wake to this dream. And we don't recognise that this is a dream also. But where are yesterday's thoughts now, like you dreamed of thoughts? Where are yesterday's happenings right now? And if your dream continued every night from where it left off, like this waking state, dreams, the moment you wake up from sleep, it continues from where it left off yesterday, could you tell the difference between the two? So you see that this is just a living dream or a waking dream also. That's why I can't tell you anything, I can't teach you anything. What can a dream character tell another dream character? Nothing whatsoever. But in hearing something in the dream, there might be a natural resonance with it. A resonance is a subtle vibration. With that subtle vibration, with that subtle life essence that is joyous and free and never changing, constantly with you. In that resonance, it'll make you want to look a little bit further. It'll start you looking at this stuff, where you might have been told about it for years and taken no notice of it, because you're getting along quite reasonably well in life, or you think you are. And people are to this day. They get by in life quite reasonably well, not troubled too much by the ego. But in the majority of us, that the ego becomes overwhelming. Instead of being satisfied with what we've got and what we haven't got, and wanting what we haven't got. Oh, as a rule, a man's a fool, always wanting what is cool, always wanting what is cool, never wanting that. Oh,
as a rule, a man is full. When it's hot, they want it cool. When it's cool, it wants it hot. Always wanting what is not, never wanting what is what he's got.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. That's what goes on. What happens if you recognise that this is the dream too? You're going to take an active part in it? Or you're going to listen to what Banky told you? He called it the unborn Buddha mind. And he made the statement that everything is perfectly resolved in the unborn mind. Don't exchange the unborn for thought. Leaving everything as it is, it will resolve itself. And it does, amazingly. It mightn't be the way I think it should, but that might be the way it will happen anyway, no matter how much you struggle and kick against it. And look out there in nature. See how nature's functioning. Earth's rolling around the sun. This part here right now is facing away from the sun, and what is it? Light. Facing towards the sun, I say it's light. On the other side of the earth, where it's facing away from the sun, it's dark. Does the earth know anything about light and darkness? Does the sun know anything about light and darkness? It doesn't. But it's naturally happening by itself in that natural functioning of it, that life essence. You can't remember your birth. You think you'll remember your birth? But in the meantime, like the sun rolling around the earth, that body is rolling along into babyhood, childhood, youth, middle age, old age, death. It's going on, it's constantly transiting. And what are you? Are you the thing that's changing, or are you the change itself? You recognise you are the change, the transient. What are you going to do? You recognise, like I recognise, the change knows better than what I do. I struggled against it for years and got in all the deepest shit you could ever get into. Self-destruction. It's not happening today. That's what's going on all around me, trying to be inflicted on me. But that's what it tells you in one of the Psalms. What is it? Oh. I forget at the moment, it might come to me later.
You're talking about change there for a moment.
Yeah,
Bob.
yeah.
And how you...
Yeah, but the Psalm I'm thinking about.
Oh, the Psalm.
Take no...
Take no thought for your life.
Oh, that's one of them. Take no thought for your life. What you shall eat, what you shall drink, what you shall wear. Your Father knoweth thou have need of these things, and your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit to his stature? That's one of the quotes of Christ again. Well, who by taking thought can you make yourself an inch taller by taking thought about it? You can't. Another one. I'll think of it anyway. And that's what I say. Pointed out that this image is a fiction. Did I go into that?
You can repeat that always.
Yeah, everything is conflict, and resistance is conflict.
You didn't go there, go there. You say it again. Say it. Just say it.
I like what you said about the sun and the earth not knowing it.
Yeah.
It's just sort of the opposite of us, really. We always want to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Now knowing, well, that's what Satchitananda is. Being, you're knowing, but not knowing this, knowing that, or knowing anything else. But the knowingness itself, and that'll bring the this and that into it, what needs to be known. And loving to be, that's Satchitananda. Nama Rupa, name and form.
Tell about resistance. Resistance is
Resistance
conflict.
and change you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, resistance is conflict, and I pointed that out, and yeah, any conflict you are in, any resistance you are in, you're in conflict, and any conflict you are in makes you uneasy to seize. Something comes up and I like it, try to keep it there, not knowing it's transient. You resist it, something comes up I don't like, trying to get rid of it, you're constantly in resistance. Leave everything as it is. As is means it's unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected, just as it is. I've gone blank at the moment. You'll have to take over again.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we got a beautiful summary of everything.
Yes, I think true that.
Yeah, so I think, if anyone want to engage or ask questions or question anything that maybe wasn't clear or maybe you would like to hear more about it, if you ask, he'll answer. If not, you'll have to just sit in silence or listen to me, which I prefer him to answer.
How do you drop the I if you're within a relationship in family who always want to know either about the past of what you've done or the future? And I see that all the I does is describe what's going on, what's happened, and what's about to happen.
I, you're relating to, instead of relating to I as the being, you're relating to I as the me. If you're relating to the pure being, what resistance is there? But if you know there's no entity...
Well, instead of pulling, so instead of relating to the... Sorry, say that again?
It's all problems of relationship.
Yeah.
I like it, I don't like it.
Yeah.
If you say, there's no I is a fiction, what's going to happen to it then? It's either whatever comes up will be as it is. So you've got this concept about yourself, and everybody else has a concept about you. The family will have a concept about you, and that concept's a dead image based on And you'll have a concept about yourself. Which concept's right?
Neither.
No, they're both concepts. So can anybody ever be superior to you without a concept?
No.
Can anybody be inferior to you without a concept?
No.
And what would you want about from the other person without a concept? If you didn't think they had something you wanted.
Sorry, say that last
What would you want from the other person without a concept? Nothing. So, if you take that stand, what needs to be said then to your family and parents will come up spontaneously and naturally.
that happens at times, but then other times I feel I can actually feel it rise.
Well, there you are, that's it. You see that something happens at times.
Yeah.
You've got to recognise those happenings that come up spontaneously and relax into that state where those happenings seemingly occur. And if you ask yourself who's it happening to, when something comes up and you say it's happening to me, but you say, wait a minute, is there a me that I've been related to? When you realise there's nothing, you see something else might come out spontaneously then.
Yeah, I had a situation last week when I was minding my grandchildren, and my daughter and my son-in-law came home very, very drunk. Very drunk. And being a recovered alcoholic, I was, I thought it was funny that my son-in-law was drunk because it was his birthday and everyone was buying him drinks, and it was a natural thing that he probably had too much to drink. But when I saw my daughter, even more drunk than him, it just sort of hit me right here, because all sorts of things, all sorts of stories. I saw all these stories coming up, and concerns and this and that, and I just knew that if I got into any of those stories, it would be disaster. So I just said, I think I might go now. And I said absolutely nothing. And the next day my daughter sent me this text saying it was disrespectful and apologising and this and this and that. And I thought, all these other stories came up and all these other answers came up to her that I would normally have said. And I thought, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. She said, oh, thank you for minding the babies. I said, oh, you're absolutely welcome. It was a pleasure. And I said absolutely nothing about the other stuff, because I knew nothing that I said would work.
They feed on it.
Yeah, they feed on it. So then I was telling a friend, and a friend said, the fact you said nothing was the most powerful thing you could have done. And so I just, there was a deep sadness within that was coming up, but it dissipated. And I just what kept coming up was everything's happening as it should.
Jane's talking about my life. I think, after doing thousands of times, Bob, investigating that there's nobody here, so over the years, your agenda seems to just, in the end, you've got no agenda,
That's right.
And, so they say, you don't have to, so there's no I coming up thinking, hey, I need to just put in a word here, you know what I mean? It's just, there's just no agenda, and so that's what is meant when you say, life gets easier, it's just the natural state.
And the thing, when she said, I totally disrespected you, I thought, but there's no me to be disrespected. If you're going to talk about respect, I felt like saying, but I didn't say. If you're going to talk about respect yourself, And I mean the real self, not the image you have about yourself. But I didn't say that either. I just thought best to just let it go, Yeah. So look, there's a lot of potential there, but who knows which way it's going to go. It's out of my hands, totally powerless.
There is this amazing advice. That's probably the best one. I'm still learning that, unfortunately. That Bob gives to seekers or everyone, whatever the conflict could be. It's always that 3 U words. Leave it as it is: unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. And he's repeating that 3 words because of the importance, of significance of this.
And it works.
It so works,
It
so
works.
I get caught up with the story when people kind of give me like an invitation to resolve the conflict. They pretend that they actually want to have a dialogue, but and I respond from love, and then they take every word and twist it around and just snap back. I still didn't learn that people have, it's not viciousness, it's selfishness. But as Bob keeps telling me, don't engage, leave it, they will turn it against you. But I say, no, people are not evil, they want, they suffer.
They're not evil, they just live in the
They're
mind.
just selfish.
They live in the self-centred, or they live in the image they have about themselves, and they live in the image they have about you.
Yeah.
And so I know that my son and my daughter and all my family think I'm some sort of puritanical, non-drinking, saint. But I'm telling you now, I ain't. And if anyone knows how powerless I am over not only the image I have about myself, but the image I have about others, I also totally understand. Oh, she said we just got carried away drinking, I felt like going, you're telling me? You're telling me about getting carried away? And I love that Buddhist saying, a man takes a drink takes a drink takes a man. And that's what happened. The drink took them, and the rest of it is just story.
Isn't a large part of the ego to do with intention, like wanting something?
It is.
Because when you're saying now leave it unaltered, unmodified, what you're saying is don't interfere with what is.
That's right.
And you only interfere when you have an intention to do something or change it.
That's right.
So what you're saying is when you're saying I'm not going to say anything, you're actually cutting the ego off, as it were.
Yeah.
Well, if there was an I, I'm not going to say anything, but if I worded it correctly, I would say there was nothing coming up to be said.
There's no intention.
Yeah, there's nothing coming up because there's no one for it to come up from. So it's just semantics, but that's right.
But that's really a big challenge because, sometimes you are moved to end or ease the suffering. And it feels so right to do so. It feels like someone invites you to close the conflict. They kind of like allude you to the idea that, we can still connect from the heart. But they lie. They don't mean it. They just, But you, and you receive the invitation and you respond to it. You don't know, Response also happens. And coming from the heart and wanting no war or no conflict is also natural. It's also kind of, yes, Bob was telling, don't touch it, and I didn't listen. Because the natural functioning of this pattern was to ease the suffering and end the conflict. That's how it works.
Totally, I totally identify.
But
because
yeah,
you're codependent here.
but
who wants
there,
to fix everybody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But there are people who thrive on conflict. There are people who assure their identity when they are right, and they want it to be. So, in a situation,
You're talking about the past. That's how it used to be.
yeah.
I used to thrive on conflict. Now I just am not there's no attraction.
Yeah, I have no attraction to conflict either, and I'm actually surprised when I get invited to it, and it's really kind of uneasy. It's not.
You got to realise there are no others either.
Yeah, that's right. I'm actually, it takes time. It's still kind of learning certain patterns. Keep on,
Die hard.
Yeah, like when Bob is talking about having a conceptual image or having image of other people, doesn't mean that he's free of having image of people. Image or concept comes up. It's just what you do about it.
That's
You
right.
think that's true, you
That's
respond
right.
to it, you engage with it, or you just leave it as it is.
And
Okay.
sometimes things just come up and come out of the mouth without any dialogue going on here. You know, I find sometimes things just come up and come out, and there's no preconceived crap going on, and you know, I could have, I could really give them a blast.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes, but it's not because I think I'm going to give them a blast. The blast just happens, or I'm going to say nothing. That just happens because there's no one here that's trying to do this or trying to do that. You know, it's just either comes up or it doesn't. Yeah.
Can I say here, I like those two things. Don't engage, and then the other thing that goes is that you remember that there's nobody there.
Yeah.
But it's also not engaging doesn't mean a passive thing. I'm very much involved with the people I interact with, but there's something that stops me engaging for at that level. But I'm very much alive with them. And then at the same time, when I think an old pattern comes up, I need to explain something to them. But then there's nobody there. They're not responsible for what they said, and that's just a story, and they just don't develop. You know.
The one does it all.
And the
one does it all.
The one does it all.
Yeah, and the thing is, you have to explain something to them.
Which I never do,
Which one?
Which I never do, because that thing might just come, but just a story. They're not responsible for what they're saying. It's So, and yet I'm still involved,
You're there.
I don't get into the past or the future much with them.
No.
I'm delighted that they've got the house.
All that.
I
know. I get what you're saying, totally.
Yeah, the paradox is that even though the most brilliant advice is leave things unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected, there is no you to leave anything either. Everything is just happened. If my pattern is to respond and try to resolve conflict, the pattern perpetuates itself.
Absolutely.
If somebody else's pattern is to keep bullying, they will have to perpetuate the pattern. Nobody does it. They don't do it. They are not the doers. It's just like dog has to bark. Dog is not the doer of barking.
That's right.
The cat.
Funny you say that, because another family thing. Because I think family things bring up old patterns very strongly. Because there's that stuff that pushes buttons. And one of those situations where you don't think you're going to, you don't even have any dialogue going on in your mind, which I don't have quite a lot. And my son-in-law for years and years, not son-in-law, my nephew for years and years, is a bit of a smart-ass, He's a bit of in a funny, playful way, but he's a bit of a smart-ass. And for years and years and years and years, nothing was ever said from here. And one day I said, "Oh, you're such an asshole, Tim." And the whole family laughed and all agreed with me. And his wife said especially, "Yes, he is." And it was and I couldn't believe it came out of my mouth. Because there was a lot of years where I wanted to say it, I'll tell you. And then it just came out. It just came out, and everybody agreed, and especially his wife, and laughed about it. So it's
And the beauty of it is the holographic universe. Everything is everything. Everything is connected, and one reflects the totality. Like every one of us has the potential to, be an asshole at times without even an intention.
Not you, Dave.
Not you. I mean, being a totality, nothing is excluded, and no one is excluded. As life, I am these people who are trying to crucify me. As life, I am these people who are completely unengaged. As life, I'm everything in every single pattern. And what the interactions are happening on the screen as a content of the movie. Me as life, I am untouched. But me as a dream character, of course, doesn't want to go on a cross. Like Jesus wasn't too happy. Yes, exactly. Well, but as life, I'm laughing. Yeah. I'm laughing because it's childish. It's ridiculous. It's a stupid drama.
About that.
Yeah, it's unnecessary.
That's right. You think you think, you know, if you only knew you were the unlimited potential, you know, if you only knew that, you know.
It would be sad if it was important.
Good point. Yeah.
Can I just ask, the process of, since I've started watching satsang on YouTube, seems to be the conflict in my life, in the life of this person I, is exponentially risen. It seems to be much more intense. Is there a process of clearing out old stories or old patterns, or is that a concept as well that I've grabbed onto?
It's not a personal process. It's a process. It'll change by itself. You clear out.
Yeah.
What do you clear out? Any belief there or something.
Beliefs, old stories.
Yeah.
Or related to the me that can only live in the past or the future.
Yeah.
Because the me is the memory, and the memory is the past, or as Bob said, the anticipating and imagining in the future. And then there's the other, the story of the other as well. So it's and what happens is, I think, is that when you first start looking at this, you're aware of everything, because you've already been touched by the knowledge of who you really are. And so you're aware of all this other stuff. And you're aware, you know, that there is only an image you have about yourself and an image you have about them. So it seems more intense.
Yeah, the suffering seems much more.
Yeah, it seems
much more
because
intense.
you're totally
Much more
aware
intense.
of everything that comes up. And so you just have to keep bringing it back to who's it happening to. Is it a me? Where is that me? Is that me, does that me live right here, right now, or is it in the memory, or is it in the future, anticipating and imagining? And then all conflict arises between me and the other person, place or thing, you know? And what's watching that? What is watching that? You know, the me is the memory. The memory, are you the memory?
No.
Yeah. Are you the past?
No.
Are you the future?
No.
Are those people an image to you?
Yeah, they're an image built.
So if they're an image to you, that's where the conflict arises, because they just are, same as you just are. And you're watching from that screen. Bob said that mirror is images. What's watching all that? Bring it back this way, you know, because there's nothing there. And that memory, that those images just appear upon it. And the memory's a useful tool. You know, the mind's a useful tool. Like Bob said, you don't stop, you know, seeing those things. But when it uses you, that's when the conflict arises. So there has to be a you or an image you have about yourself for the disease or the conflict to arise. And there has to be another.
Yeah, Moira says thank you for what you're saying. She loves it.
Yeah.
Who said?
Yeah, Moira, she loves what you're saying.
Oh, thank you.
What I'm hearing you say is that you're going through the process of discovering what you're not.
I'm not sure what process I'm actually going through, what's going on.
Yeah.
I know that there's something that happens when I do satsang. There's something that starts to happen here. I don't know what that is.
Sure.
I think the eye is trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah. So normally the process, if we want to call it that, is that we first come to see what we're not. We just do.
Netty,
Yeah.
not this, not that.
Yeah. So we come to see that come to see that, come to see that. And it's not really until that is exhausted.
There seems to be an intensity that I don't control on watching satsang or I'm engaging in it. That's been going on for a while now. It started to slow down. I then had to come here. But I kind of like it to hurry up and finish because it's, yeah.
In my experience, there was the, whilst I was coming to see and know what I wasn't, there was still an identity here.
Yeah.
There was still a me here
Yeah.
that was believing it was coming to see what it wasn't. Just a belief that there was a me here, and it was, and that sense of meanness was just totally taken for granted. Didn't even need to look there. All I needed to look at was what I'm not, which was all just contained in thoughts, and then just coming to see that wasn't there.
But my understanding, my mental understanding is it can't ever be through the mind. It's not ever through. It can never be thought. It can never be conceptualized. It can never be.
That is aware of all the thoughts that float through your mind. Is that a thought?
No.
Is it split?
No.
Does it understand here, there, this, that, up, down?
No.
No.
No, because it's nothing. Well, it's nothing that I can actually say or describe.
Yeah. So until you lose the interest in looking at what you're not, until that happens, and that just happens of itself, until that happens, you won't turn and even be engaged or interested in.
The times I have actually kind of there's a giving up. There must be a giving up.
Yeah, there was.
Because there are times when I just give up.
Yeah.
And just whatever's going on is going on.
You don't disappear, do you? When you get
No. In fact, it's a relief. I think I feel like I'm 1 foot. I feel, and this is I saying this, explaining it, that there's one in that space or whatever that is, and the other one, the one it's more intense when I become when I identify with this body and with this mind. And I don't want to keep. I'm tired of that one. I guess the I one. Yeah.
That I one, whether you see it or not at the moment, is also just purely contained in the thoughts.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It can be really hard to see, because what it also hangs on to is the sense of presence. That meanness hangs on to that. It grasps that.
Yeah.
After all, I see, I hear, I'm aware. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it grabs a hold of that, and because that sense of presence is real, we don't even question, we don't even consider looking there. So it's close. It's really that sense of meanness, or that sense of I-ness.
Which is kind of in here.
It's
almost.
really
It's
close.
felt. It's something that's
In my experience, the last thing.
Everywhere can only visit when you're not there. I know it's that old poem.
That's a cute one.
Yeah. And I was thinking this line about halfway down the stair, I met a man who wasn't there. He wasn't there again today. I wish to hell he'd go away. That's my mind.
Can't do a thing with it. That's a cute one.
And that unaltered, unmodified, uncorrectness that Bob talks about, it's not so much about leaving that alone, or what's coming out of anybody else. It's leaving that alone. Leave it. Leave it unmodified. Don't try and change it. Don't try and do anything about it. Just don't engage. Leave it.
Whatever is available to be left alone, because Bob is talking about resistance. Even if resistance come up, even resistance can be left alone and just watched as the content.
You're the context, not the content. That's a cute one from Paul Hederman. You're the context, not the content. I like that. So many wonderful pointers today, Bob. So many wonderful pointers today.
And also the truth of the matter is that whatever the conflict is, or resistance, or everything, it only happens when we think about it. Because the moment we stop thinking about it, it's all gone.
That's it.
It's,
What's wrong with right now, unless you think about it? The best pointer of all.
It is. And this pointer, what's wrong with right now, can be taken further, like investigate absolutely everything, what is happening without the thought. Who am I without the thought? Am I even the body? Do I even have a face unless I take the thought or mental image, which is a form of thought? Or is there a conflict without the thought? Those people who are rowling out there, do they exist if I don't think about them? Are they the content of this immediacy, or they are just mental image for this moment, which this moment is all there ever is? In this moment, there is really no need, because the tendency to analyze, compare, to judge, to even say, is it a tendency to this, or is it growing, or is it going down? It's all mental capacity, it's all computing, and it's wonderful. But the moment we take them for reality, we think, this is the tendency, you know. Now people are gathering a bigger and bigger and stronger army, and there is in no time they will nail me to the cross. That would be the nightmare. One moment at the time is just one moment. Yesterday I got a nasty email. Today I didn't get any. So it is just this moment. And nothing's going on. If there is a conflict in a moment, the body will know how to respond to the conflict because it has already been conditioned in certain way to respond. And if I leave the body with its responses and I'm still the screen, I leave it unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected, and I learn how this body is going to respond. I'm the screen, I'm the life, and I see, okay, this body has the tendency to close the conflict. The tendency is totally twisted around to aggravate the conflict. Okay, that's the story for now. But the moment the story is closed, there is the immediacy of now. There is seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling.
There's nowhere to go.
Exactly. And there are sensations going on, and there are sounds, and there are tastes, and there are smells, and there are thoughts. And this is the content of this moment. And every moment is different. Every moment is fresh and new. Every moment is here now, and it's never ever going to come back again. So going into the memory and reliving the past is okay. It's another habit pattern, but it is missing out on this moment. It's missing out on the reality of the dream, because that's also a dream.
Or anticipating the future, or having stories
Absolutely.
about the future and about the people who are crucifying us.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, those are stories. Once they are recognized as stories, they're laughable. They're good stories, or the bad stories, or whatever. They're just laughable. They're just images, the mental images.
Genuinely laughable.
Yes, absolutely. The images,
yeah.
And the reality is happening moment to moment, and it isn't really. As Bob said on the beginning, everything is Maya, is illusion. We are seeing solid things because we trained our eyes and our mind to recognize by labeling. So everything is a full of field of potentiality. There are vibrations. The vibrations that become solid when, the atoms or whatever, because they were labeled out of this homogeneous blob of potentiality. There are sounds which are vibrations. There are different vibrations. Thoughts are different vibrations. Everything is totally homogeneous field of potentiality, but labeled out of existence, believed into an existence by the languaging. So this is the reality of the dream now. The dream. the potential here is to recognize the dream for what it is,
Yeah.
to wake up to the dream. Now the body is still going to respond to threats and to hunger and to whatever it is. The body is a dream body. The others, there are no others, there are another dream bodies, they are dream figures. But now the interactions are being watched as the movie. And the screen is untouched.
That's
The
right.
movie can be enjoyable or not, but whether there is joy or non-joy, this is also part of the movie, because the screen is still untouched.
Well said. Yeah, very good.
Mm. Thank you.
I'll give you a good one. If the mind doesn't go blank again, I don't want that. There's always been all questions about the difference between consciousness and awareness. Here's a good definition of consciousness. Consciousness means an existence fully aware that it exists.
Say that again.
Consciousness.
Consciousness means an existence fully aware that it exists.
Oh.
Fully aware that it exists
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Consciousness itself.
Well, like when I had that blank, but I couldn't remember anything, there was still an awareness there, but nothing to say. The consciousness or existence didn't disappear.
How beautiful.
Mm.
Think about it, get it, really beauty. So we look for consciousness, we look for awareness. I think there's something we can run. That's all it is. Anyone who is not aware that they exist right now, he must be conscious. That consciousness must be aware.
That's it in a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell.
Well said.
I remember Cliff came to one meetings and he had this beautiful analogy. It was really fun when Bob was talking about non-conceptual awareness, awareness without concepts. He caught himself in a noontime of Sunday, Saturday or whatever, that I got late on this one, and then I got an unpleasant phone call, and then the omelette got a little bit fried, and I'm having a bad day. And he says, "Oh my God, I just defined my day. I'm having a bad day." There was 3 events. First one took about 20 seconds. The second one was probably a couple of minutes. And so he had actually a couple of minutes and couple of seconds of a bad day. But the definition, "I'm having a bad day," completely ruined his experience till the moment he woke up from the story, from the conceptual story.
Yeah, I love that thing about stories.
Yeah.
There'll be an awareness that there's a catching.
Mm.
And the old switcheroo, you go,
Yeah. So my laughable story, I'll probably pay for it, because now these people can watch it and they realize that I only have a good laugh for a couple of minutes per day. I'm not losing my sleep over it. That will be disappointing. But, well, that's the way things are. Whenever the interaction happens in the reality, that's when the seeming reality of it is valid. Apart from that, the moment is gone, and there is this moment.
Yeah, and it's interesting when you work with people, like I work with people, and they'll come up to you, all doom and gloom, and I'm having a bad day, and I go, "You sure it's not just a bad moment? What's going, why spoil your whole day? You've got a whole new moment coming up now." Yeah.
And plus, they haven't lived the whole day yet anyway.
That's right. They've already sort of...
Could be 8 o'clock in the morning. Still got 24 hours to go.
They go, "Oh God, what a drag."
And that's another way that I heard Bob was saying occasionally about all the conflicts or all the situations that cause uneasiness or resistance. Don't give it any attention. Starve it, because there is no fire that can burn without fuel. And the fuel is the thought. If we go back and keep rethinking it, we put the fuel on the fire. The moment we refuse it attention, it's going to die out. That's how Nisargadatta was advising people to stay only with the sense of I am. Stay only with the sense of presence to the exclusion of everything else. Like, don't waste your attention on anything else. Not that, again, you can do it. Not that anyone can choose where the attention is going, because if it's nobody home, and even if I think there is someone home, there isn't. No. So even if I think that I have the ego, I don't, because ego is a fiction. So it's not that I can choose where the attention is going to go. When he invites people to stay with the I am, he actually speaks to the consciousness, not to the person. He's offering the resonance. When Bob says leave things unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected, he's not talking to the ego. Ego doesn't exist. He's talking to the consciousness, to offering the resonance, because if the resonance comes up, it may spontaneously and naturally happen. Oh yeah, okay, we'll starve it, won't give it any attention. And if the attention goes there, I see the movement. Again, I'm the screen watching the movement. I'm the screen watching the movement of attention, awareness of the movement of attention. I'm not identified with the content anymore.
And the interesting thing is, when you know, like this lovely girl here, when you first start watching that, you know, you are shining a light on all the dissipation of energy. You know, you're shining a light on that dissipation of energy that goes into those stories, that goes into the fiction, the story. You know? And you know, you can actually notice. You know, there is a noticing. You know, of how exhausting it is. You know, and then you're just not attracted. Once you know who you're not, you don't have to do anything. There's just not an attraction to the story, you know, and it might happen slowly, using words, you know, and it might just go bang one day, you know, but it's never anything you can do, because there is no you. There's no you to do anything, nothing to do, nowhere to go, no one to do it. But there's an awareness of that dissipation of energy that goes in to that whole scenario, that whole story about you and the other.
Yes.
And there's a natural. Bob used to say, you're either attracted or repelled. You know, you're either attracted or repelled. And what happened here was there was an attraction to the story. I wasn't attracted to the story. There was not an attraction to the story, you know, and sometimes that happens slowly, and sometimes it just went bang, but I never did anything.
No, you can't.
Anybody want to say anything quick before it closes down?
I do.
Good.
Yeah.
What I've heard, but only come to realise or recognise recently, is so you can't get away from having relationships. And the first relationship you have is with the I feeling. Like, you think there's an I. And then all the other relationships are put on top of that.
That's right.
Like, and if you don't believe that I, then you can't really have conflict. There's nothing to, like, you don't feel attacked, ever. Someone can be trying to draw you in to a conflict, and you can just be like, okay, that's true, you can just agree with them. And not have a fight, because there's no, that your self relationship with the I isn't there.
Exactly. You don't need to defend yourself ever again.
No.
No,
and
it's
then,
nothing to defend.
Yeah, and then you have all this extra energy left.
That's
you don't have a conflict, and then you kind of just
That's wonderful that you've said that.
live life really easy.
Effortless living.
So even if you feel like people are trying to draw you in,
Yeah.
You're the one who goes, actually, that's not even possible.
We're not actually in a relationship with others.
Yeah.
We think we're in a relationship with us, but we're not actually in a relationship with them.
Yeah.
We're in a relationship with the idea that we have about them.
Yeah.
That's the relationship that we've got. That's why it's best just leave it unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Don't do anything, because it's usually wrong.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's why people get offended when you call them on something. What are you talking about? That's not true. That's not how I see myself. That's not what I'm saying or doing or did or whatever the case might be. You know, we project that.
Put it simply, relativity is dualism.
Mm.
Relationship, relativity is dualism. No relationship, no dualism.
Very simple.
Thank you for the light of love that comes dissolving all my shadows of attachment, all my strings to all my perceived others, that when I sit in company, good company, halfway home, said the Buddha, something about it dissolves, just the light of love that's here, dissolves my shadows of my attachments. And that's our chemical transformations. They're releasing it on my own, and when the body goes down and when there's pain, you get, and people ask you how your pain is, and you're talking about your pain, and the doctor says do it again, and this and that and the other, and you get 3 reports. It's very tiring and very painful. And in that space, quite shadowy. And I'm really grateful for the space of whoever can come together to recognize that nascent knowing that there's no I, there's only
one.
Yes, you are that light of love.
Yeah, you are that light of love. Beautiful.
That's it, is it? That's it? Anybody?
That's all there is. There isn't any more.
Unless somebody want to say something, right?
Sure.
So on one end we say we're not the doers, right? But on the other end there's a sense of I who judges and, as you said, comes up with the thoughts, whether they're positive or negative or whatever, judges the situation.
No.
Is that
There's nobody comes up with thoughts. Thoughts come up without any agency, just like sounds.
But there is doing, but no doer. There is seeing, no seer. Hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. All these things all this functioning is happening. But when we split it into a subject, object, I see this, that's dividing it into subject, object, I think this.
But there's a sense of I that thinks that he's
Yeah.
doing it.
That's in translation.
It's just a sense.
A sense of need.
It's just like dog is not thinking his barks; they just come up because of the, that's the nature and conditioning of the body of the dog. So the bark comes up. There is no one inside who is actually doing the barking. Just like there is no one who is digesting food, no one who is beating the heart, no one who is blowing the wind, growing the grass. No one is thinking the thoughts. No one is taking decisions. The body is already conditioned to respond in particular way, and you are the screen of awareness where everything happens. That you will get particular thoughts, just like certain dogs will get particular barks. So you won't be having thoughts of let's say, becoming a terrorist or something, because it's not within the frame of the conditioning.
It's funny you say with the dog. I'm going to say that my son, he wanted a lamb to get a sheep, right, because of the grandkids. So I've got this sheep now in the back of my yard. It's a fairly big yard. And the sheep meh all day long. Now you're saying, if there's no one in there mehing, maybe I was getting to the stage now where I'm getting a little bit too, what's the word?
Analytical.
I was going to give her back to the guy. I'll ring him up and say, listen, you better take her back because sooner than later someone's going to knock on the door. It's funny that you said the dog just barks, or the sheep just meh.
Yeah.
There's nobody there mehing.
No.
So I can't blame her, really.
Dang sheep.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, easy.
I had to say that.
Beautiful.
Because
Yeah.
of the dog, it's the same thing.
It's,
Probably lonely.
it's good to laugh.
Yeah.
She follows the chickens all the time. She's lonely.
I laugh at that. The chickens, when the
She
chickens
thinks
come
she's a
out,
chicken.
she follows them. And even if I go there, she comes to
Doesn't
me,
let 'em out.
but then she takes off sort of thing.
Yeah, bars more and more. As soon as the chickens come out, she sort of settles down.
Ah,
She wants to be part of company.
Has she been there since she was a baby?
No.
I only got a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay.